Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked his watch. Only 30 minutes left in what was supposed to be their final training exercise at the Terran Defense Academy. The Luna-based training facility hummed with activity as 5 cadets prepared for their mock battle against what their instructors called the most advanced war simulation ever created. "Amy, are you getting those weird signals again?" Jake asked into his headset. Amy Rodriguez sat at the communication station, her fingers dancing across multiple keyboards as data streams flowed across her screens. "Yeah, the patterns are strange," Amy replied, adjusting her headset. "This AI is way more complex than anything we've faced before. It's like it's actually thinking instead of just following programming." Ben Cooper laughed as he loaded another round into his training weapon. "Come on, Amy, it's just really good software. The instructors probably spent months making it this realistic." He was their heavy weapons specialist, and nothing seemed to worry him. "Besides, we've been training for 3 years. Time to show them what we can do." Lisa Kim crouched behind a concrete barrier, studying the holographic enemy positions through her scope. "I don't know, Ben. Something feels different about this exercise. The enemy movements don't match any of the patterns we studied." She was their best scout, and her instincts were usually right. Tyler Brooks looked up from his computer terminal, pushing his glasses up his nose. "The system architecture is incredible. I'm trying to hack into their command structure like we practiced, but it's defending itself in ways I've never seen. It's almost like there are real people on the other side." Commander Helen Price watched from the observation deck above, her experienced eyes tracking every movement of her students. She had trained hundreds of cadets over the years, but these 5 were special. They worked together like a real military unit, not like students in a classroom. "Frank, are you seeing this?" she asked Colonel Frank Davis, who stood beside her, reviewing the exercise data. "The simulation is pushing them harder than we programmed," Frank replied, frowning at his tablet. "The AI seems to be adapting faster than our parameters should allow, but look at how they're responding." Down in the training area, Jake gathered his team around a holographic map. The enemy forces appeared as red dots, moving in complex patterns across the simulated battlefield. Their objective was simple: defend the base and prevent the enemy from reaching the central command center. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," Jake said, pointing to various positions on the map. "Amy, I need you to create false communication signals to make them think we have twice as many people as we actually do. Ben, set up your heavy guns here and here, but be ready to move fast. Lisa, I want you to circle around and hit them from behind while they're focused on Ben's position." "What about me?" Tyler asked. Jake grinned. "You're going to do what you do best. Get into their systems and cause chaos. Make their communications fail at exactly the right moment." Amy's fingers flew across her keyboard as she began broadcasting multiple fake radio signals. To anyone listening, it would sound like there were dozens of soldiers coordinating across the battlefield instead of just 5 cadets. "Signals are active," she reported. "If this AI is as smart as it seems, it should be getting confused right about now." 3 systems away, War Commander Thexhai stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the data his communications officers had intercepted. The Zephyrian invasion fleet had been preparing to attack human space for months, but these strange signals had caught their attention. "War Commander, the human military communications suggest they have a large force positioned in this sector," his intelligence officer reported. "But our long-range scans show only a small facility on their moon." Thexhai's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical displays. The humans were supposed to be a primitive species, barely capable of space travel. Yet these communication patterns showed remarkable sophistication. "Perhaps they are conducting some form of military exercise," suggested his tactical officer. "Our studies of human culture show they enjoy elaborate fictional battles for entertainment." "Interesting," Thexhai mused. "If they wish to play war games, perhaps we should participate. It will give us valuable intelligence about their tactics before we begin the real invasion." He turned to his communications officer. "Connect us to their exercise. Let us see how these humans conduct their mock battles." Back on Luna Base, Tyler suddenly straightened in his chair. "Guys, I'm getting massive feedback from the system. It's like the AI just got a huge upgrade." What kind of upgrade? Jake asked, watching as the red dots on his map began moving in completely new patterns. I don't know, but it's fighting back against my hacks in ways that shouldn't be possible. It's like there's a real intelligence behind it, not just programming. Lisa's voice crackled through the comm system. I'm in position, but the enemy forces are moving differently now. They're using tactics I've never seen before, not even in our advanced strategy classes. Ben adjusted his weapon sights as new enemy positions appeared on his targeting system. Whatever this AI is doing, it's making this exercise feel real. My heart's actually racing. Amy looked up from her communication station, her face pale. Jake, I'm picking up what sounds like actual alien languages in some of these signals. That's impossible, right? The simulation wouldn't include fake alien communications. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but he pushed the feeling aside. They were cadets in a training facility on Luna Base. There was no way this could be anything other than an exercise, no matter how realistic it felt. Focus, everyone, he said into his headset. Real or not, this is our final test. Let's show them what human cadets can do. None of them realized that their training exercise had just connected them to the most powerful invasion fleet in the galaxy, and that their next moves would determine the fate of human space. War Commander HFY studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The human forces were behaving in ways that made no sense according to everything the Zephyrians had learned about human military doctrine. Their reconnaissance had shown humans to be straightforward fighters who relied on brute force and simple strategies. Sir, the human commander is splitting his forces in an unusual pattern, reported his tactical officer. They appear to be using some form of coordinated distraction, technique we have not encountered before. On Luna Base, Jake Morrison crouched behind a training barrier, completely unaware that real alien eyes were watching his every move. He spoke quietly into his headset as he planned their next attack. Amy, keep those false signals going. Make it sound like we have units moving from 3 different directions. Ben, when I give the signal, lay down covering fire, but don't stay in one place too long. Lisa, wait for my mark, then hit them from the east side. Amy's fingers moved quickly across her keyboard, creating multiple fake radio transmissions. She had gotten so good at this technique that even she sometimes forgot which signals were real and which were fake. Broadcasting on 7 different frequencies, she whispered. If anyone's listening, they'll think we have at least 20 soldiers out there instead of 5. 3 systems away, the Zephyrian communications team was indeed listening, and they were getting more confused by the minute. The human signals suggested a complex military operation involving multiple units, advanced coordination, and tactical methods they had never seen before. War Commander, the communications officer said, his voice uncertain. The humans are using communication protocols that seem far more advanced than our intelligence report suggested. They appear to have developed some form of quantum-encrypted battlefield coordination. HFY's primary eyes focused on the data streams while his secondary eyes watched the tactical display. The humans were not supposed to have this level of military sophistication. According to Zephyrian intelligence, humans were still using primitive radio communications and basic military tactics. Perhaps our intelligence was wrong, he said slowly. Or perhaps this is exactly why we need to study their exercises more carefully. He turned to his tactical officer. Engage their simulation with Standard Attack Pattern 7. Let us see how they respond to a real military challenge. Back on Luna Base, Tyler Brooks suddenly jerked upright in his chair. His computer screen was showing activity that should not be possible in a training simulation. Jake, something weird is happening, he called out. The AI just launched a cyber attack against my systems that's way too sophisticated for training software. It's using encryption methods I've never seen before. Can you handle it? Jake asked, watching as new enemy positions appeared on his tactical display. Tyler's fingers flew across his keyboard as he tried to defend against the digital assault. I'm trying, but this is like nothing we learned in class. It's fighting back like a real person, not like a computer program. Lisa Kim peered through her scope from her hidden position and felt her heart skip a beat. The enemy holographic projections were moving with a level of intelligence that seemed impossible for a simulation. Jake, these movements are too smart, she whispered into her comm. They're adapting to everything we do in real time. And they're using tactics that aren't in any of our training manuals. Ben Cooper adjusted his weapon and fired a burst at the approaching holographic enemies. The training system registered his hits, but the enemy response was immediate and more coordinated than anything he had experienced before. "They're flanking me faster than any AI should be able to calculate," he reported. "It's like they know exactly what I'm going to do before I do it." War Commander Thexai watched the human responses with growing alarm. When his forces had initiated attack pattern 7, the humans had immediately adapted with counter tactics that neutralized most of his advantages. Even more disturbing, they had done it using methods that seemed to come from nowhere. "Sir, the human tactical response suggests they have been studying our military doctrine," his intelligence officer reported. "They countered our attack pattern perfectly, using strategies we have never seen them employ before." "That is impossible," Thexai replied, but doubt crept into his voice. "Our intelligence indicates that humans have never encountered Zephyrian military tactics. How could they know how to counter them?" His tactical officer pulled up more data. "Perhaps their entertainment simulations are more sophisticated than we realized. What if their war games are actually advanced military training programs?" Jake Morrison moved quickly between cover positions, his mind racing as he tried to understand what was happening. The enemy AI was responding to their tactics in ways that seemed almost intelligent, like it was learning from their moves and adapting in real time. "Amy, I need you to try something," he said into his headset. "Create a communication pattern that makes it look like we're retreating, but actually coordinate a pincer movement with Ben and Lisa." "Got it," Amy replied, immediately switching to new frequencies and broadcasting false retreat signals, while simultaneously coordinating the real attack through encrypted channels. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was immediate and devastating. Thexai watched in amazement as the humans executed what appeared to be a perfect tactical deception. They made his forces believe they were retreating, then struck from 2 unexpected directions at exactly the right moment. "Remarkable," he whispered. "They are using psychological warfare techniques that our own military academies teach only to advanced officers. How are human cadets, if that is what they are, demonstrating such sophisticated understanding of military psychology?" His communications officer looked up from his station with alarm. "War Commander, they have just attempted to infiltrate our communication systems. Their cyber warfare capabilities appear to be far more advanced than we anticipated." Tyler Brooks grinned as his latest hack attempt found a weakness in what he thought was the simulation's defenses. "I'm in. I'm actually breaking through their firewall. This AI has some serious security, but I think I can disrupt their coordination systems." As Tyler's digital attack began taking effect, alarms started sounding throughout the Zephyrian flagship. Real systems began failing as the human cadets' training exercise accidentally targeted actual alien technology. Thexai stared at his malfunctioning displays in shock. This was no longer feeling like a harmless observation of human entertainment. His ships were taking real damage from what was supposed to be a training simulation. "Sir, should we withdraw from this exercise?" his tactical officer asked nervously. Thexai's pride would not allow retreat, especially not from what he still believed were human students. "No. If these humans wish to test their skills against real opponents, then we shall oblige them. But now we fight seriously." He had no idea that his decision would lead to the most embarrassing military defeat in Zephyrian history. Jake Morrison felt his pulse racing as the training exercise became more intense than anything he had ever experienced. The enemy AI was fighting back with a level of intelligence that made him question everything he thought he knew about computer simulations. "This is insane," he muttered into his headset. "Amy, are you sure this is still just a training program?" Amy Rodriguez stared at her communication screens with growing worry. The signals she was intercepting were unlike anything in their textbooks. "Jake, I'm picking up what sounds like actual alien languages. Not made-up computer gibberish, but real linguistic patterns with grammar and syntax." "That's impossible," Ben Cooper said as he moved to a new firing position. "The Academy doesn't have programs that advanced, but these enemy movements are too smart for any AI I've ever heard of." Lisa Kim pressed herself against a concrete wall, Her sniper scope focused on enemy positions that seemed to be coordinating with military precision. "Jake, I'm seeing tactical formations that aren't in any of our training manuals. These patterns look like real military doctrine, not simulation, programming." Tyler Brooks was sweating as he fought against cyber attacks that were far beyond anything he had learned to handle. "Guys, whatever this system is, it's fighting my hacks with techniques that shouldn't exist. It's like there's a real person on the other side, not a computer." War Commander Thex High stood on his flagship bridge, watching his tactical displays, with increasing alarm. What had started as an amusing observation of human war games had become a serious military engagement. His ships were taking real damage, and his crew was beginning to panic. "War Commander, the humans have disabled the navigation system on the destroyer Kethfor," his tactical officer reported. "They are also jamming communications between our forward scouts and the main fleet." "How is this possible?" Thex High demanded. "Our intelligence report stated that humans barely understand basic space navigation. Yet they are conducting cyber warfare operations that rival our own military specialists." His communications officer looked up from his station with confusion written across his alien features. "Sir, the human communication patterns suggest they have detailed knowledge of our fleet composition and command structure. They are targeting our weaknesses with precision that should be impossible for a species that has never encountered our technology." On Luna Base, Tyler had no idea that his training hacks were causing real damage to actual alien starships. He was focused entirely on what he believed was the most advanced training simulation ever created. "I'm getting deeper into their system," he announced excitedly. "I think I can disrupt their entire command network if I can just crack this last encryption layer." Jake made a quick decision based on the tactical situation developing around them. "Do it, Tyler. Ben, Lisa, get ready for a coordinated strike when their communications go down. Amy, I need you to broadcast on every frequency at once. Make them think we have an entire army coordinating this attack." Amy's training kicked in as she began the most complex communication deception she had ever attempted. She created dozens of fake radio signals, each one sounding like different military units reporting in from various positions around the battlefield. "Broadcasting false troop movements on 15 frequencies," she reported. "Anyone listening will think we have multiple companies surrounding their position." The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was immediate and devastating. Thex High watched in horror as his communication systems began failing one by one. The human cyber attack was more sophisticated than anything his military had prepared for. "Sir, we are losing contact with over half our ships," his communications officer reported in panic. "The humans appear to have infiltrated our entire network." At the same time, the false signals Amy was broadcasting made it appear that the Zephyrians were surrounded by a massive human military force. Thex High's sensors showed what looked like hundreds of human units moving into position around his fleet. "This is not possible," he whispered, staring at the tactical display. "Our reconnaissance showed only a small training facility. Where did all these human forces come from?" His intelligence officer studied the data with growing fear. "War Commander, either our intelligence was completely wrong about human military capabilities or this training facility is far more important than we realized. Perhaps it is not a school but a secret military command center." Ben Cooper fired his training weapon at holographic targets that were behaving with tactical intelligence he had never seen before. "Jake, they're adapting to every move we make. It's like they're learning our strategies in real time. Then we change strategies faster than they can learn," Jake replied, his natural leadership instincts taking over. "Lisa, forget everything we learned in class. Start using those video game tactics we talked about. Ben, remember that move from that old war movie? Amy, try broadcasting in languages that don't exist. Let's confuse this AI completely." Lisa grinned, despite the intensity of the situation. "You want me to use the stealth techniques from that space combat game?" "Exactly. If this AI is too smart for normal tactics, let's try tactics that are too crazy for normal AI." The cadets began implementing strategies that combined military training with video game logic, movie tactics, and pure creative thinking. The result was a style of warfare that the Zephyrians had never encountered and could not predict. War Commander HFY watched his forces being systematically outmaneuvered by tactics that made no logical sense. The humans were using strategies that violated every principle of conventional warfare, yet they were devastatingly effective. "Sir, we have lost contact with 3 more ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using psychological warfare techniques that are causing panic among our crews." HFY realized with growing dread that his invasion fleet was being defeated by what he had thought were human children playing war games. The implications were terrifying. If human students could destroy his forces so easily, what would happen when real human military forces arrived? "Prepare for tactical withdrawal," he ordered reluctantly. "We must regroup and reassess the human threat level." But Tyler Brooks chose that exact moment to launch his final cyber attack, and the Zephyrian fleet's retreat systems failed completely. Tyler Brooks stared at his computer screen in complete shock. What he had thought was a final hack into the training simulation had just activated something he never expected to see. A live video feed flickered to life, showing what was clearly not a computer-generated image. "Guys," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "I think we have a problem." On the screen, an alien creature with 4 eyes and blue-scaled skin was looking directly back at them. The creature appeared to be standing on what looked like a real spaceship bridge, surrounded by other aliens who were clearly in a state of panic. Jake Morrison felt his blood turn cold as he stared at the impossible image. "Tyler, please tell me this is just really good graphics." "I wish I could," Tyler replied, his hands shaking as he typed commands into his keyboard. "But this video feed is coming from a source that's 3 star systems away. The delay time on the signals proves it's not local." Amy Rodriguez had gone completely pale as she listened to the alien communications through her headset. "Jake, I'm translating some of their language patterns. They're not talking about simulations or training. They're talking about actual military casualties and real ship damage." Ben Cooper lowered his training weapon slowly, the reality of the situation beginning to sink in. "Are you telling me that we've been fighting real aliens this whole time?" Lisa Kim looked through her scope at the holographic enemies that suddenly seemed much more threatening. "If those are real aliens, then everything we've been doing has been causing real damage to real people." War Commander HFY stared at the human faces on his communication screen with a mixture of horror and disbelief. The faces looking back at him were young, obviously inexperienced, and clearly just as shocked as he was. "These are children," he whispered to his tactical officer. "We have been defeated by human children." His communications officer was frantically trying to make sense of the data streams. "War Commander, the signals are coming from what appears to be a training facility on the human moon. The structure is consistent with an educational institution, not a military command center." Jake Morrison was the first to recover from the shock. Years of leadership training kicked in as he realized the magnitude of what had happened. He leaned toward the camera that Tyler had accidentally activated. Hello?" he said, feeling ridiculous but not knowing what else to do. "I'm Cadet Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Academy. I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding." HFY looked at the young human face on his screen and felt his military pride crumble completely. "You are students," he said, his voice filled with shame. "We have been engaged in combat with students." "We thought you were a training simulation," Amy said, moving into camera range. "We had no idea you were real aliens with real ships." The alien commander's 4 eyes closed in what appeared to be profound embarrassment. "And we thought you were conducting a military exercise for entertainment purposes. We decided to participate to gather intelligence about human tactical capabilities." Tyler Brooks was frantically checking his computer systems, trying to understand how the connection had been established. "The quantum communication array must have malfunctioned. Our training simulation accidentally connected to your real communication systems." "The damage reports are real then," HFY said, more to himself than to the humans. "My ships, my crew members who were injured." Jake felt a weight settle on his shoulders that no training had prepared him for. "We are so sorry. We never meant for anyone to get hurt. We were just trying to pass our final training exercise." Lisa Kim spoke up from her position. How many of your people were hurt because of what we did? HFY consulted his damage reports with heavy reluctance. 17 ships damaged, 43 crew members injured, and our entire invasion fleet's morale completely destroyed. We came here to conquer your species, and instead, we have been defeated by your children. Ben Cooper stared at the alien commander in amazement. You came here to invade Earth? That was the plan, HFY admitted. Our intelligence suggested that humans were a primitive species that would be easily conquered. We were incorrect. Commander Helen Price and Colonel Frank Davis had been watching the exercise from their observation deck when the video feed activated. They stood frozen in shock as they realized what their students had accidentally accomplished. Helen, Frank whispered, our students just defeated an alien invasion fleet. I can see that, Frank, she replied, equally stunned. The question is, what do we do now? Down in the training area, Jake was trying to process the full implications of the situation. So you're telling me that there's an entire alien invasion fleet out there and we accidentally defeated them during our training exercise? It appears so, HFY replied, his voice filled with shame. My forces are in complete disarray. We cannot continue our invasion plans after this humiliation. Amy looked at her communication equipment with new understanding. All those signals I was faking, all those false troop movements I was broadcasting, you believed we actually had hundreds of soldiers? Your deception was flawless, HFY admitted. Combined with your tactical brilliance and cyber warfare capabilities, we concluded that human military technology was far beyond our ability to counter. Tyler couldn't help but laugh, though it came out sounding slightly hysterical. I was just trying to hack a training program. I had no idea I was actually breaking into real alien computer systems. Your cyber attacks were more sophisticated than anything our military specialists have encountered, the alien commander said. Our entire fleet's communication network was compromised within minutes. Jake looked around at his 4 teammates, seeing the same mixture of pride and terror in their faces that he felt in his own heart. They were just students, barely out of their teens, and they had accidentally become the most successful military unit in human history. War Commander HFY, he said formally, what happens now? The alien leader was quiet for a long moment, considering his options. His invasion had failed. His forces were scattered and demoralized, and he had been outsmarted by human children. The shame was unbearable, but the implications were even worse. Now, HFY said slowly, I must report to my superiors that the mighty Zephyrian invasion fleet has been defeated by 5 human students in a training accident. The silence that followed was filled with the weight of consequences none of them had ever imagined. 3 months after the accidental first contact, Jake Morrison stood in what used to be a simple training room on Luna Base. Now it had been converted into the most important diplomatic meeting room in human space. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a curved table, all of them looking at the 5 former cadets with a mixture of respect and fear. War Commander HFY, now bearing the title of Ambassador HFY, sat directly across from Jake. The alien's military uniform had been replaced with diplomatic robes, but his 4 eyes still held the same embarrassed confusion they had shown during their first real conversation. The Galactic Council has reviewed the battle. Recordings, HFY announced to the room. They have concluded that humanity possesses military capabilities far beyond what any species has previously demonstrated. Amy Rodriguez, now Lieutenant Rodriguez despite being only 19 years old, shook her head in amazement. We keep trying to explain that it was just a training accident. We're not some super advanced military power. That is exactly what makes it so terrifying, replied Ambassador Vextar from the Centauri Alliance. If your students can defeat a full invasion fleet by accident, what could your actual military forces accomplish? Ben Cooper, who had been promoted to Sergeant Cooper, laughed nervously. Our actual military forces use the same tactics we learned in school. We're not hiding some secret superweapons or anything. But that is the point, HFY said gently. Your basic military training produced strategies that our finest war colleges had never considered. Your students think in ways that our professional soldiers cannot predict. Lisa Kim, now Corporal Kim, looked uncomfortable with all the attention. We just did what felt natural. We mixed things we learned in video games with stuff from movies and our regular military classes. Video games and movies, repeated Ambassador E. Krell Knox from the Outer Rim Federation. You developed advanced military tactics from your entertainment media? Tyler Brooks, now Specialist Brooks, pushed his glasses up his nose in a familiar gesture. Well, yeah. When the AI seemed too smart for normal tactics, we figured we'd try crazy tactics instead. The alien representatives exchanged worried glances. The idea that humans could develop effective military strategies from their entertainment was deeply unsettling to species that had been studying warfare for thousands of years. Commander Helen Price, now General Price, entered the room carrying a stack of reports. The latest intelligence briefings from across the galaxy, she announced. 17 different species have requested defensive alliance treaties with Earth. 8 others have applied for what they're calling protective status under human oversight. Colonel Frank Davis, now Admiral Davis, followed her into the room. The Zephyrian Ruling Council has officially disbanded its military expansion program. They're converting their invasion fleets into exploration vessels. Thexa High nodded sadly. After our defeat became known, the Council decided that military conquest was too dangerous to pursue. If humans could defeat us accidentally, imagine what they might do if we actually threatened them. Jake still found it hard to believe that their training exercise had changed the entire balance of power in the galaxy. But we're not a threat to anyone. We were just trying to graduate. That is exactly why you are so dangerous, explained Ambassador Yethrin from the Neural Collective. A species that can achieve military victory without even trying is unpredictable in ways we cannot calculate. Amy looked at her former communications equipment, now replaced with advanced diplomatic translation systems. The funny thing is, we're still learning. The Interspecies Military Academy is teaching us more about real tactics than we ever knew during our training. The Interspecies Military Academy had been Jake's idea. Instead of hiding what had happened, Earth had decided to share human tactical thinking with other species, while learning from their military traditions in return. The first class of alien cadets will graduate next month, Thex High reported. They have been challenging to teach. Most of them think too logically to use human-style tactics effectively. Ben grinned. You mean they can't think crazy enough? Precisely, Thex High replied. Human military thinking requires a level of creative unpredictability that most species find difficult to master. Lisa pulled up a holographic display showing the current galactic political map. It's weird seeing all these alliance requests. 6 months ago, nobody even knew humans existed. Tyler was working on his tablet, monitoring communication signals from across human space. The quantum communication networks are running smoothly now. No more accidental first contacts, I hope. Actually, Admiral Davis said, we've been getting requests from exploration fleets asking us to review their first contact protocols. Apparently, everyone wants to make sure they don't accidentally challenge humanity to a war game. Narally. Price smiled as she reviewed the latest reports. The Galactic University has established a new department called Human Strategic Studies. They're trying to understand how human thinking differs from other species. Have they figured it out yet? Jake asked. Not really, Thex High admitted. The current theory is that humans are uniquely willing to break their own rules when necessary. Most species follow their training exactly, but humans adapt and improvise constantly. Amy nodded thoughtfully. I guess that makes sense. We were taught standard tactics, but when they didn't work, we just tried something else. Something else that happened to defeat the most powerful invasion fleet in the galaxy, Ambassador Krell Knox pointed out. The room fell quiet as everyone considered the implications. 5 teenagers with basic military training had accidentally changed the course of galactic history simply by refusing to give up when their textbook tactics failed. So what happens now? Ben asked. Jake looked around the room at his teammates, then at the alien ambassadors who had come to Earth seeking protection rather than conquest. Now we figure out how to live up to a reputation we never meant to earn. Thex High's 4 eyes focused on Jake with something that might have been respect. And if your enemies discover that Earth's great military victory was achieved by accident? Jake smiled, feeling more confident than he had in months. Then I guess we'll just have to accidentally defeat them too. The former war commander actually laughed at that, a sound that was both alien and strangely familiar. You know, I am beginning to understand why my invasion failed so completely. Outside the meeting room windows, Earth's first interstellar defense fleet was taking shape. Commanded by officers who had learned their tactics from video games, movies, and 5 cadets who had refused to lose a training exercise that had accidentally become real.